Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Man, we are fired up today. Today is Gabe Yanez's birthday. He's also wearing gloves in the recording studio. He is ready to rock and roll. We are here with Dennis and MDV. We are talking about our challenge of the week. On a weekly basis, we're having different challenges. This one, we are talking about using a sandbag, which we're going to get to that at the end of the episode, talk about what it actually is. But we are riffing a little bit on what the challenge is going to be. So we're going to settle this up at the end of the episode. Does that work for you, Gabe?
It's not for me. It's just where the segment is.
Okay. The segment is at the end of the episode. But anyways, Gabe, how does it feel to be 34, man? Anything different today than it was yesterday?
Same exact as 33. If anything, the little guy's sick. Didn't get good sleep last night. Like last night was just one of those nights. Like kept waking up because he got a runny nose. So if anything, I'm going into 34 a little beat up, but excited for it nonetheless.
They don't care it's your birthday.
No,
they don't care.
No, they don't care. No,
zero.
No. Yeah. No, dude, I'm turning 40 this year. That's a big milestone right there. It's got me thinking a lot about just stuff, right? But 34 is kind of like, I remember when I was young, man, 21 or 18, it was like I can go on a vote and buy lottery tickets or whatever it is. 21, you could drink alcohol. 25, you could rent a car. And then after that, it's just like every year just keeps compounding. But all right. So I didn't send this to you guys, but I sent it to you, Gabe, about the leg circumference. Did you see that one that I sent you?
I did.
That's a good thing to talk about, but I should have sent it over to the guys for their kind of review.
Should have.
Wait, is this like a correlative to longevity? Like
yeah.
circumference?
Have you read that one?
No, but it just makes sense. Because some of this stuff, it all comes down to the percentage of chance that you're going to be able to fall and catch yourself when you're older. So, your leg circumference when you're younger probably plays a big part in your overall athleticism and if it's muscle, obviously, as opposed to just pure fat drumstick leg. But like if you have a big leg circumference, muscle on your body, higher BMI, lower body fat, you're probably an athlete. But as you get older, bone density starts to wane, muscle starts to kind of, if you're not using it, go away a little bit. So I would imagine that your leg circumference, as it goes down, or if it's lower when you're older, your longevity is shorter. Your ability to withstand things like falls or incidents like that is much lower than somebody who's got a higher percentage of muscle on their body.
Right.
Yeah. I was reading it from the National Library of Medicine. I sent this over to Gabe, but basically they had 20,000, the cohort was 20,000 people, and they did it across many, many years. And long story short, the conclusion is a low thigh circumference appears to be associated with increased risk of all cause and cardiovascular mortality, but not this one type of mortality specifically. But long story short, when you read through the article, the data basically says that the leg circumference, and when you think about it, it makes sense, dude. Like it makes total sense to me because leg circumference, if you look at someone who's out of shape, oftentimes like it's all up top and you don't get bigger legs, right? When people get in shape, it seems like their legs start to grow as well. So I thought that was an interesting take on it. It's like, now I'm like, all right, dude, I did some leg extensions today because I'm trying to get a bigger quad because I want my circumference to go up.
I think you're doing okay. I would be really interested to see the demographics of the people who are in this 20,000 cohort. Like what was the percentage? What was the age? What was the male female split? What were their activity levels? And just to know a little bit more about the group of 20,000, because, women typically hold more muscle and more fat on their lower bodies than men. Men typically hold a little bit more muscle and fat on their upper body. But yeah, the correlative there, I would imagine, is dealing with things like when you fall and you're just skin and bones, you're probably going to break something and then you end up really bed bound, and then other things can start to creep up on you. But of course, like healthy user bias comes into all of this stuff too. So the all cause mortality and cardiovascular risk would be interesting to look at. Like, what was the demographics like?
Right. It's probably an indication, kind of like the grip strength thing. It's not like just because your grip is stronger, you're going to necessarily live longer. There's an association because people that have a stronger grip probably lived a life that was healthier and more athletic, and all the ancillary benefits that went along with developing that grip strength is what actually led to longevity and increased lifespan. Same thing here.
Hey, how much do you think of that hanging from a bar with the 185 pounds was due to your grip strength versus something else? Do you think it had to do with all grip strength?
No. Yeah, I mean, shoulder stability for sure. There's definitely a lot of shoulder involved. I mean, grip is obviously a huge part of it, but the hanging arm, the stress on the shoulder joint is it's pretty high. So you need to kind of gradually create that capacity in the shoulder girdle to be able to just support that much weight. I think that would be actually, to me, I feel like that was going to be the first thing that would give out would be my shoulder versus my grip.
Yeah. I think that's what happened to me because I think that I had pretty strong grips, but bro, I couldn't do damn thing on that. And my favorite part was, I'm at the gym. This was like a couple of days ago. I'm at the gym and, because Andrew Hiller put out a video basically talking shit about my inability to like, it was a pretty good video. It was pretty funny. Like he's basically like eating chips, talking shit to me. Like, hey dude, how does this guy not be able to hang longer? And so I go back to the gym and I'm with one of the guys. He's like, dude, you were like, bro, you must have just been finished jiu-jitsu and been like really exhausted or something. Like there's no way that you capped out at like 55 pounds, whatever it was. I was like, yeah, dude, I think I did. And he's like, no way. Anyways, we tested it again and I didn't have it. My shoulder. It's my shoulder girdle. It's my shoulder girdle.
I thought it was going to be a big redemption story.
No, there's no redemption there at all.
Yeah. Tried it again. I got 100 pounds.
No, anyways, no, I could not hang. Maybe I'll try it again in the near future, but that was my experience there.
Well, Dennis, what's going on there? You think if you had to guess, like what deficiency in someone like Jason, who's obviously like incredibly fit, right? Like, can perform any CrossFit test that you bring out and be like top percentage of the world. What's kind of the deficiency there? And does that even matter long-term for someone like Jason?
I mean, if you look at that position of the shoulder, it is like you're in a fully exposed, extended, almost like position of hyperextension at that joint, where you're trying to create stability. And if you don't expose the joint to that position and develop strength there, you're just not going to be very strong, like any other position of the body. But that's particularly unique, where like, not unique, but something that you just never would expose yourself to. I mean, even like a barbell fully locked out or hanging from a bar with pull-ups, first of all, it's going to be bilateral, so you'll be supported on both sides. To be hanging on one arm, fully exposed, fully extended at that joint, when do you find yourself there? So if you don't train it and expose yourself to it, you're just not going to be very strong.
Yeah.
No matter how strong you are.
This is highly exposure based. I bet Jason on a training plan, if he introduced it a few times a week, would see pretty significant growth in the ability to not only hang for duration, but then hang with additional weight on it.
For sure.
It's also a really good indicator of, at least for me, it's always been a good indicator of how tired my central nervous system is when my grip is very fatigued. Like if I have a few really hard training days in a row and I wake up and you have that feeling where it's like, man, I can't even like close my hands tightly here. It just feels like, that portion of whatever mechanism is very fatigued for me. But usually a good indicator that like my central nervous system, my whole body needs a rest at that point. So there's probably some of that too, Jay, where you are training a lot and you're going into this like test to have max hang time, and you just kind of lose it a little bit, man.
It's like in jiu-jitsu.
You could build that up. You could build that up pretty quickly.
Well, it's like in jiu-jitsu, there's like a butterfly guard and like there's like butterfly position. You're using like a lot of like adductors, even like holding a guard. It's just different positions you don't normally find yourself in. And unless you have exposure to it, you just don't have the prerequisite strength. It's like little positions that could throw you off. For example, hanging from a bar with a 185 pound barbell. I can't even fathom it.
It's so interesting how like the grip strength thing has been just like a tried and true in terms of like testing for like training preparation. That thing's been along for such a long time, and it still seems to be like a really, really good indicator. I forget, I think it was Peter T. I was listening to a podcast the other day, but we've gotten so caught up with things like HRV and Whoop trackers and like every gadget in the world that'll tell you like your readiness score. But the more and more that stuff comes out, it seems that it's like, it's such a guess. It's such a missing target. Like it's such an imperfect technology. And you go back to really simple things like, how are you feeling? What's your grip strength? Are you motivated to train that day? And that still seems to be like the best way to just gauge, like, should you get after it that day, or should you maybe take a little bit of a step back? And maybe this is a good segue into one of the things I wanted to talk today, which is like training through pain, injury. Like, where's that line? Like, where's the line of like no pain, no gain? Like, you're going to be a little sore, a little banged up versus like taking the day off, or like, hey, I had a plan, but this movement doesn't feel great, and pivoting. But I found that really interesting because I was definitely someone that, like, when the Whoop strap came out, I remember it was like, you lived and died by your readiness score and what color that stupid ring was. I've gone through like every ridiculous obsession on the planet. And now it's just so evident that some days, like today, shitty sleep, not feeling great, it's like extra cold outside. It's just not going to be a day where I go in and chew concrete. It's not going to go in, move around a little bit, did like 2 sets of heavy lunges. That felt fine. And to be okay with that and pivot your efforts just based on how you feel just still seems to be the same way, even though there's all this tech out there that'll give you a number every day on like how you're doing, how your sleep was, whatever. I'm sure there's some value to that, but I think a lot of people get caught up with it.
Yeah, but it's also like a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're that obsessed with the data and you're using that as the sole indicator of whether or not you're going to train today, or you're going to train hard today, or you're not going to train today, then you end up looking at a score. You might not feel like your recovery's in the 50%, but you look at your watch, you go, oh, it's a 50% recovery day. I should probably take it easy today, right? Like, and you start to only use that as the indicator versus, Gabe, what you're saying is like, listen to your body. How did you sleep? How do you feel? Like, what were your past 2 or 3 training days like? And you can kind of start to rely, I think, too heavily on what the number says from your strap on your wrist.
Well, that's one of the issues that I found, like competing at the CrossFit Games. One of the issues I found early on is the reason why we kind of came up on the fly with some of the programming. Although I think that having structured programming for most people most of the time works, when you're trying to compete at the highest level, for me, a lot of it had to do with how I felt. And if you felt good, you were going for top numbers. If you didn't feel good, you just went for mediocre numbers. And the problem is when I had a coach programming for me, some days I didn't feel great, but yet it called for me to go set a PR on Fran, for example, or set a PR on a clean and jerk. And I was just setting myself up for failure because I just didn't feel great that day. Or I felt exhausted, or whatever it was. So that was one of the things I had to learn early on was recognizing that and then programming for myself. And if I felt like I was ready to throw the hammer down, I did. And if I didn't, then I would just tone it back. I wouldn't try and set PRs on days that weren't PR days, if that made sense. And I still trained every day. It just, some days were PR days, some days weren't. That's it.
Yeah.
This is an interesting, like in like the micro sense, it's really interesting to talk about training or training at your top levels in this regard, where it's like, if I feel my best, those are the days that I'm going to go in there and perform my best, or I'm going to try for the things that, I know I need my top 5 or 10% to get to. But even if you if you take a step back and you look at this from more of a life perspective, and Jay, you and I have talked about this before, it's like, if you make the decisions you need to make to feel the way you want to feel, more often than not, the other things that come after that have a positive result on whatever the next thing is. Whether that means hey, I know that I feel really good when I eat these types of foods, or I know I feel really good when I go to bed at this time and I do this thing before bed. And then you wake up the next day and you have this momentum pushing you through to whatever the next task could be. And if it's something that offers you a bit of adversity, maybe you handle that a little bit better because you feel good physically, and you also feel good about making the right decisions to put yourself in a place to handle that next thing really well. Gabe, when we come back around to this topic of injury, I think that that's a really interesting aspect of all this stuff, where it's, you can start to make decisions or get in your own head that takes you away from your most optimal performance. And then it becomes harder and harder the further you get away from that. The more decisions that are non-optimal, it's tougher to get back on track. And it's something that I think about a lot, especially right now in the condition that I'm in with having the Achilles rupture. What are the things that I can do to put myself in a position, knowing I can't go out there and get after it as hard as I want to make myself feel really good?
Well, momentum goes both ways, right? Like I can share my example is I was running, following this marathon programming, like to the T every morning, going out there every morning, except Thursdays, going out there, getting some sort of run in. And then later I would do, like 3-4 flex sessions per week. And I was into like a really good groove. We went on this trip. Something happened. I still don't know like what the actual acute injury that happened, but my sciatic nerve got really, really upset and I just wasn't able to run anymore. And immediately when my running program went to shit, I started eating differently. I started like not waking up early just to do something else because I wasn't following the running program. So now I'm also not waking up early and maybe doing some other type of conditioning or whatever to maintain. And like, I definitely went into that it was probably a week. And also the psychological side of it too, which MDV, I'm sure, you get is like, you're also just like disappointed. You're like, you're bummed. And that like, that momentum like snowballs even more because now you feel bad for yourself. You're like, woe is me. And the quicker you can snap out of that, the better. The quicker you could be like, hey, I'm still waking up every morning now. Going in, I'm doing something on the assault bike. I'm doing like, high rocks kind of stuff because I have that coming up. And I'm back in a groove. I still can't run and I'm still bummed about that. And this past weekend was supposed to be like the marathon. It was like my birthday weekend. I had this whole like vision on how that was going to go and it didn't, but it's all good. But I think that's also a muscle that you need to kind of train and flex and just be aware of it. Like you said, because it could easily snowball into now you look back and it's been 4 months and you've kind of let everything else go, nutrition go, sleep go, everything, just because this one thing was outside of your control. So, I mean, that to me is a much lesser extent than you, obviously, MDB, but something that like I can speak to, like literally is just last couple months it's happened.
For sure. I want to get these guys' takes on this topic too, but from a practical perspective, the one thing that I'm realizing, and it's a lesson that I've learned before and I keep relearning, is that you're one good decision away. You're always just one good decision away, no matter how far down the road you think you might have gone, right? Whether it's months or years or whatever, you're one good decision away from turning that dial even just a little bit towards the positive momentum. And you can use that decision to like habits to stack or to like habit stack other decisions on top of it. And then the momentum compounds. So like you might be sitting there and being like, it's all lost. It's all lost. It's all gone. I used to be an athlete. I'm way out of shape now. I feel like shit. This isn't going my way. I'm sleeping like crap. I'm eating like crap. You're one decision away from putting yourself in a different mindset that the next time you go to make a decision, you can rely on that and go, man, I made a good choice there. And now I have the opportunity to make another good choice. It's so fucking powerful, so powerful. And I know that the further you get away from that, it can be tough, but the momentum is always there to be able to be shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Jason's never lost any momentum.
In
I
training,
don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I don't think that that's true at all.
No, I don't either. But I was trying to get
training
going.
No, I'm thinking about how that relates to having kids, right? I mean, I think that relates to like everything, not just training. Like we talk about nutrition, we talk about sleep, we talk about hydration, we talk about training, and all those things are really powerful. But when life comes and kicks you in the nuts, which it will, I think, making that next best decision, and then like it continues to snowball because you might find yourself making poor decisions, saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. And then if you say something like, you could always turn that back around. I'm just thinking about how that relates to kids, right? Like you reflect on it, you're like, dude, I didn't handle that situation very well, right? I could have handled that differently. And then, dude, what can you do about it? The next thing you do, you make a better decision when you have conversations with kids. And then all of a sudden, boom, that's one step this way, and then this way, and this way, and this way. And you're just kind of turning the knob back towards where you want to be, but I think having that self-perspective is super important. That's something I'm thinking about, like where that relates to my life.
regardless, I think that having like a regular practice of just looking back on those times, there's a word and it's evading me right now, but like going through like the checklist of like where everything is kind of sitting, I think is the most important thing that you can have anyway, so you can become aware of it before it just like the train kind of runs away on you. You know what I mean? Like whether that's like a daily reflection or a weekly reflection of just like truly being like, right, did I let things go a little bit too much so that you can course correct? Because some people don't do that. I think that like we take it for granted because we probably think about that stuff a lot. But for some people, it is very much just kind of like go with the flow. And that's where it could be easy to, next thing you know, you blink and it's been 2-3 months of moving in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to get confused who's listening to this where it's like, oh, I have to work out every single. Do I think you need to work out every single day? I think you should move your body every single day. I don't think you need to do a super intense workout every single day. I always have to eat the exact precise nutrition that like follows this prescription. I think you should pay attention to your nutrition, but I don't always think you have to exactly follow the prescription. I think some of what makes like this concept really powerful to me is like the next best decision for you might be to like sit down on the couch and fucking relax for a little bit and like collect your thoughts and not feel so out of control about everything, and then go to make the next best decision after that. It's a powerful concept because like I think it just allows perspective about what do I want to feel like. The decisions that I'm going to make right now will impact how I show up in the future, the next couple of days, the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months. And you have a lot of power to kind of shape your future with the decisions you make in the present. And it's not just to live your life so stringently that you have no fun and like you just eat chicken and broccoli all the time and like you spend all your time in the gym. I don't think that's the case. I think that relates to like a really holistic view.
Is that you? Is that you, Dennis?
That was me just raising my hand. Yeah.
Oh, dude, Dennis,
what's wrong with that?
Are you?
There's nothing wrong with that if that's the decisions you want to make. I live my life like that.
Dennis, are you in the gym eating broccoli and rice and broccoli, rice, and chicken and getting ready for your strongman competition? Is that what your day is built up of?
That pretty much sums it up. Yeah, that pretty much sums up my last 30 years. Well, you know, like what's interesting, like within the context of this topic and discussion, like I'm trying to think of myself, like no matter how busy my life has gotten, stressful things have gotten, up through ups and downs, highs and lows, like two things that I've never strayed from are training regularly and just like living a healthy lifestyle, eating the nutrition decisions that I make, like getting enough sleep, staying hydrated, whatever. Like, and I always have to remind myself, like, why is that the case? Like for the average person that isn't as like, they're not as connected with a purpose behind why they would make healthy decisions. I always have to remind myself to like be able to relate to the person that can easily fall off the tracks when it comes to making good nutrition and lifestyle decisions, because I've been making good decisions regardless of what circumstances I'm under for the past like 20 plus years. So it's so second nature for me and so just easy for me to do that I have to oftentimes like get out of my own head and put myself in somebody else's shoes so I can relate to that. And I have to look at it through the lens of something other than like making nutrition and lifestyle decisions. Whatever that might be, financial decisions, parenting decisions, decisions that I make with Jen as a husband, like, because I can't, it's hard for me to relate to the average person, I think, from their perspective, when it comes to like making good decisions as it relates to nutrition and lifestyle, regardless of how stressful life becomes. Because for me, it's just my default.
I love that. I love that. And like the way that I feel very similar. And when I'm most dialed in, those decisions are what really, they guide my days in a lot of ways. Right. And there's other things around that. But for me, Den, like you're saying, like 30 years I've been doing this, the amount of positive momentum that those decisions have probably given you in other aspects of your life, where if you went into a tough financial conversation with your wife, or you had these, I'm not saying you never fly off the handle, you've never lost your temper or anything like that, but it probably puts you in a fucking really good decision to feel your best in other stressful situations that come up in your life because you have this physical and these physical goals, these nutrition goals, these decisions that you've made consistently,
right?
And you feel really good, and that's a superpower, man.
Yeah.
And we were alluding to this a little bit before we hit record. Like, it just makes everything so much easier. Dealing with an injury, dealing with, kids and the extra like energy that takes. Like, being fit and being healthy just like makes everything easier. I talk about it with Ariel all the time. We're like, there's times where we're just like looking at each other and we're like, how do other people do it? Like, I don't know, like, we get good sleep, like, we eat the right foods, we're working out all the time. And there are definitely times where we're both looking at each other like, whew, I was, that day kind of, kicked me on our bums. And, but I know that it would only be harder if I was out of shape. It would only be harder if I didn't prioritize my sleep, so on and so forth. So, that's definitely very eye-opening and something that, very grateful for.
It's the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum, like in practice, like that was a model. So the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum was a model that Greg Glassman put out when he was, defining fitness and health and CrossFit in the original like CrossFit doctrine. And on one end of the spectrum, you have fitness. In the middle, you have wellness. And then on the opposite end, you have sickness. And Jason's a big fan of this continuum. I think it serves a fantastic purpose. Fitness is a state of hyper wellness. And Glassman was saying like we should strive to get ourselves towards that fitness marker in all aspects of our life and our nutrition and our fitness. And, he famously put things up there that were, scores for workouts and numbers for deadlifts and also biomarkers. And then, you can even put relational stuff on there. You can put everything, financial stuff on there. And then in the middle, you have wellness, which was like the state of like average being, he defined it as. And then you have sickness, which is, the state of being sick in all these different aspects or deficient in these different aspects. And dude, it's so apparent to me that this is a valid model because if you get hurt, let's say like I ruptured my Achilles. I had warmed up, by the way. I was playing for about 90 minutes. And freak accident, went to get a shot across my body playing pickleball, and my Achilles exploded like it sounded like a baseball bat was snapping. Went down right away. If I didn't have the requisite amount of fitness that I had, my life right now would be nearly impossible to live as a solo individual. I would need constant help for everything. I have no idea how somebody who is out of shape, like or severely out of shape, would deal with an injury like this. It would be debilitating. Everything is hard. I have to pick up something off of the ground. I have to balance on one foot and use the crutch in the other hand to pick it up. I'm on my one leg all the time. I can't get up off of the couch without using a significant amount of upper body momentum. Carrying things is impossible. It just is like the list goes on and on and on and on. And if you're in that wellness state, or you're in that sub-wellness state and something like that happens, that dial just flies way down the line. So you have this buffer when you get fit, when you put yourself in a really good physical position. You're making super good decisions about your nutrition for most of the time, making good decisions about your sleep. You have all this fitness built up that hedges against incidents like this. It's really super powerful in practice. And it just makes me, it makes me wonder, like, what if I wasn't so fit, dude? I'd be completely fucked. Like, you can't do anything. Showering is like a 90-minute ordeal on one leg. It's pretty wild.
Dude, you know what's crazy, MDV, is I played pickleball this weekend with Ashley, and I'm not gonna lie, bro. It was in my head. You were living rent free in my mind because, bro, I'm there. I'm like, hang on a second. MDV said he warmed up, so screw it. I'm not going to warm up. And then MDV said that he was doing this. I'm like, screw it. I'm not going to do that. But honestly, dude, it was
the worst logic I've ever heard.
No, I'm half joking.
I love paddle sports too. Like paddle sports are one of my favorite things. I love like beach crocodema, like the little rubber ball and the wooden paddle. Like it like warms my heart. I was loving pickleball, and then it was just like a scout sniper, like got me and I just went down.
Dude, I mean, she beat me in the games. I attest to it as being like me being in my head that I was just like playing at like 50% because I didn't want to have that happen. But man, it definitely rattled me a little bit. So I don't know, it's but I get what you're saying, man. That sickness to fitness continuum was always something I really I leaned into because I saw that firsthand in so many ways, right? And you could take that in your fitness, you could take that in your financials, you could take that in your relationships. All of them is just on this like scale. And the more that you invest in your relationships, the more you invest into your finances, the more you invest into your fitness, the more of a hedge you have, And I saw that obviously back in the day with when Ava got sick. It was just a really great example of that exact same thing. Not so much on the fitness side. I mean, that was a part of it, but the fact that when you're in the hospital for months, like all those things can easily swing really quickly, just like what you're talking about. And if you don't have a hedge, I just don't know how people do it. It's impossible, or it seems impossible.
So when I got injured, when I ruptured my Achilles, the first 3 or 4 days I couldn't put any weight on it, and it was pretty miserable. Like it was super tough to move around. That morning, the morning that I got hurt, I had laid out all my 2025 goals. I had woken up at like 3:30 in the morning. I was chewing concrete. I was like ready to rock. I wrote it all out. And that evening, the gods of irony saw me snap my Achilles, and I like had to reframe all of those things, which was a cool exercise because a lot of the things that I had written down, I had to subtly change some of them. But then there was this massive group of goals that I was like, wow, I can focus so much more on these ones that I've never really been able to dial in because physically I just can't do as much. But dude, when you can't put your body weight down on both feet, everything is hard. Like you getting out of bed, putting on underwear, getting changed for the shower, forgetting something when you move from the counter to the couch. It's like your mind starts to melt where you go, I can't believe I forgot to grab a fork. And now I have to get back up, use the crutches, walk on over there. So aside from those things, you have to be so super intentional, and it demands that you have more grace for yourself because the meter, the annoyance meter, like you can watch that motherfucker fly off the handle at the drop of a hat. Like you'll drop something and you'll be like, all of a sudden it's the worst thing that's ever happened. It's super interesting. But not being able to move around freely is a huge hindrance for sure.
You see people that deal with chronic pain, they just look exhausted, right? If they've been dealing with something for years, they just have this look on their face like, someone just put me out of my misery already. It's just like, it just wears you down, man. Day in and day out.
Everything gets hard. Yep. Not only the pain, the physical pain that person is probably in, but the effort that it takes to do simple nominal tasks is outrageous.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. Like to walk to the bathroom with both crutches, to place the crutches against the wall, to undo the pants while standing on one leg, to then have the whole bathroom experience happen while either standing or sitting. And then it's 500% harder at least than normally going to the restroom. It's like, it's beyond. And it can very quickly send you into like a spiral of not only being pissed off about the situation, of feeling bad for yourself. And then the next level after that is like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do the pull-ups and the dips that I can do because I feel like shit. I've been feeling bad about myself all day. So then it becomes harder to make those good decisions. And that's really where you have to like nip that shit in the bud and just be like, fuck it. Yeah, I'm doing those things because I know I'm going to feel better.
Yeah, the system I've always used anytime I've been dealing with like pain or an injury, and I've always used this system with my clients as well and athletes, like is the red light, yellow light, green light system. I was taught this many, many years ago by a friend of mine, Andres. You remember Andres?
No. Yes.
PT. And it's such a simple system, but at first, when you really think about it, you can apply it. Like it's I think relevant to this entire discussion because it highlights what is in your control and what you can actually still do as opposed to focusing on the things that you can't do. So, but it's just a simple, within the context of exercise, it's like red light exercises, whatever you're dealing with, are ones that make whatever pain you have worse. Like you perform the movement and it's exacerbating the pain or the injury, whatever limitation you have, you avoid those. Those are red lights for now. Yellow lights, you have to be conservative with, like you can kind of feel it and it's there, but it's not making it worse. You can kind of work through it. So you're just conservative and cautious with those movements. And then green lights are stuff that you can do pain-free and no issues, no limitations. And you just shift the majority of your training into the green light section and just do the things that you can. Tinker with the yellow light ones. And then eventually some of the red light ones will start to become yellow and you just move them up the ladder as you go. And you just cycle through it until hopefully there's no more red lights.
Man.
And it applies, not just to exercises, but to everything. Right, of course.
So simple, so helpful. Andres helped me a lot with a lot of bang ups in my time. Dennis, I'm sure you're familiar with this, and I was searching it really quick because I remember that it existed, but I wanted to see it. I sent it to Liz, so maybe she can pull it up. The OPEX health continuum. I was thinking about it when you guys were talking about the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum, because OPEX came out with this as kind of like the true fitness continuum is kind of like a rebuttal per se.
Right.
And their argument was always that like elite fitness and actual like wellness live on two different sides of the equation, because in many ways, the things that you need to do for elite fitness, like if you take the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum to its extreme, if you're doing everything that you can to get a heavier deadlift, to get a faster Fran, to do a faster Murph, you're actually going towards imbalance, and it's actually bringing you closer to sickness than if you're on this level. Because their big thing was always everything. There needs to be a balance in vitality and wellness that is actually at odds with training for constantly improving all these metrics. And I think that it's worth discussing because, again, using me as an example, I know that there are some things that I do and some ways that I train that maybe on the edges aren't doing me any favors. There's a reason I'm banged up now. There's a reason that, potentially if you look at like, even like hormone levels, like you can do things that are detrimental to your testosterone scores and stuff that like is for vitality. So I always thought that this was an interesting evolution of that, because yes, while I think that, very simply put, sickness, wellness, fitness makes sense, I think that this more clearly illustrates that if you're ever taking the fitness stuff to an extreme, there is a point where you're actually doing things that are detrimental to your actual wellness and vitality. So I always appreciated that take of it, but it's based on the same principle.
Yeah,
Well, I think if Glassman looked at that model, he'd be like, "Of course, you fucking idiot!"
Like, well, we said we say it at the level one. We say if you keep going in this direction, it comes full circle back to sickness. So
this is a less elegant way to put it. It's just more dots on paper. Of course, if you take anything too far, it's going to swing you back around. Like this illustrates it, I think, for people. The misconception is that the fitness that we want to achieve through training is CrossFit Games level fitness. That's not what we're looking for. It's not what most people are looking for. What you're looking for is a state of being that is beyond just doing okay and moving that dial a little by little in a conservative way in a lot of ways, because if you try to swing it in one fell swoop towards fitness, you're probably going to get fucking hurt. But if you're moving it intentionally and slowly across a distant horizon till you get to fitness, you're going to be good. I think that model, it obviously illustrates it very clearly on paper. You can see, this is how you follow the path. But it's the same deal with the sickness, wellness, fitness continuum.
Yeah. Yep. And
I'm shocked we've never seen that.
Sorry. We say it very clearly, like you stated very clearly that there's going to be an extreme where if you're trying to only focus on moving your fitness markers as far to the end of that continuum as possible, other things are going to suffer as a result of that. And that's just a more complicated way.
That other model is overly complicated.
Yeah, I don't even understand. I don't even understand that model.
It makes it doesn't. I wish I never saw that. To be honest.
For clarity's sake, for those, Liz, if you want to just pull it up real quick one more time.
Oh, Jason's going to love this thing, dude. This is going to be Jason's new thing for sure.
No. This is not my nonsense. New thing. This is not my new thing, but just for people who
turn it 90 degrees and it's our model.
So for those of you who are
let's get the
this
balls
on
off
audio,
the screen, dude. I don't want to see these balls anymore.
it does look like a ball. For those of you who are just listening, basically there's a line and it goes basically in a circle kind of ish. This is very difficult to even explain verbally, but it starts at death, then it goes to sickness, and you keep going around to vitality, wellness, then all of a sudden it wraps around a corner and goes back. Essentially, I'm not doing a good job of explaining this verbally, so you'll have to.
What this thing is trying to show you, what this model's trying to show you, is that there's elite fitness, in which I think CrossFit Games are elite fitness. We're looking for the fittest human being on earth. And I think that whoever created this model is saying that that's not a fitness state of being. That is an elite fitness state of being, which at times might put you closer to sickness due to injury levels, due to imbalances in your life, whatever. Mm-hmm. And of course, that's the case. Of course, that's the case. And like, I think when Glassman put out this model, he was never, ever thinking of the elite level of fitness that the CrossFit Games would need to elicit to find or crown the fittest human being on earth, which is the stark difference between the CrossFit Games and then CrossFit as a methodology, for sure. That's the major difference.
Liz, you could take that away. That was very hard to explain.
I think the biggest takeaway for me from something like that is the fact that there's a line where you cross into imbalance. And I don't necessarily think that like it's just training for the CrossFit Games that crosses that line. And I think that everyone can be, including myself, can be better about identifying for you when it is that you're teetering or coming close to that line and course correcting so that you're, or maybe not even course correcting necessarily, but being aware that like, hey, I have a goal that requires a little bit of sacrifice on this stuff. And it's not going to be something that's sustainable. It's going to be a season of my life. Hey, I want to be super lean to some extent. I need to know that maybe that's not sustainable or long-term for me, but it could be a short-term goal where I can take a lot from that journey, but it's not something that necessarily is bringing me closer to optimal health. And that's okay. But I think that understanding that is important for anyone that has, whether it's like race specific goals, aesthetic specific goals, or anything like that. That to me, I think is an important takeaway for maybe a lot of the people that are listening as well.
Mm. Interesting question here. If you want to be elite, world level elite at anything, I don't care if it's washing cars, I don't care if it's playing poker, I don't care if it's doing fitness and trying to win the CrossFit Games, your life probably demands some level of imbalance for a period of time, right? Like if you want to be the best in the world at anything, you have to almost necessarily be somewhat imbalanced towards that thing. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Is that not?
It's almost by definition. It's almost like, not only by definition, but it has to be, right?
I was going to say, if you take that chart and scratch off fitness and write anything, it's going to be true. Right.
Yeah. I mean, think if you want to be like, if you're a football player, if you're a golfer, if you're anything, like the amount of time and dedication you have to put in that specific thing, there's going to be imbalances elsewhere. And that's just what you signed up for. I mean, I felt that obviously, and once you have kids, it really shines light on that, right? Because you can't, it puts a lot of pressure to make sure you are trying to stay more balanced. And at some point you just got to give in one way or another, because you can't just be all in over here when you have kids, especially. That's what
For sure. And I think that different people, based on their situations, their personalities, based on the commitments they have, probably juggle those balls all a bit differently, right? Like you could probably, if you were, a single unattached person who didn't have a whole lot of other commitments, you're able to dedicate a tremendous amount of your own personal time, resources, energy. You're taking risks that you might not take if you have other things going on in your life. But like everybody finds those balances differently, if you want to achieve a certain level of performance.
Well, then at what point do you start being a little bit selfish versus doing things for yourself? Like I'll give you an example, like Dennis. He's going to have to be a little bit more imbalanced in his training because he's getting ready for the strongman competition. I'm not saying, but it's not like crazy, but like, I think overall that's going to benefit everybody around, or I'll speak for myself. Like tactical games or jiu-jitsu or whatever I'm getting ready for. I'm going to get ready for a jiu-jitsu tournament. There will be an imbalance where I need to start spending more time on the mats. That's going to take me away from other things that I want to do. But that's okay because it's a specific season with a specific goal, and I could address that. But if that becomes too much, and all of a sudden I'm missing out in other areas like work or with family, I need to make sure I have those checks and balances in place, because that could be on a much micro scale compared to like a professional jiu-jitsu athlete. I'm not saying I'm going to be that, but it still is skewing my time energy right towards something I'm training for.
I would define this as like in the training context as a bias, a training bias, right? Yeah. You're now angling your training and your time and your energy towards a specific goal, still with the understanding that I have other things that I want to make sure I still keep up. And then the degree of bias really would depend on like what level you expect yourself to achieve or what your ultimate goal is, right? Like, so if you wanted to go and be in the Craig Jones Invitational Super Fight in the next 5 years, you would have to dedicate nearly all of your time to your jiu-jitsu practice, right? Nearly all of your time to your mats, because you would probably still be able to maintain a lot of your physical prowess, your strength, and all these other things. But your skills on the mat would need to even beyond where you're at right now, they'd need to go up really, really high. And that would take a change in complete philosophy for your training and lifestyle.
Dennis, have you seen any shift for you with the strongman like training that you've been doing? I'm just curious, like, how's that been going?
So far, so good. I mean, no, I'm not training any more than I normally would. Just what I'm doing during my training has shifted really more than anything. And it's just a little more intentional and focused during my sessions. But I'm not like spending hours and hours training, Okay. But that stuff, I mean, shit, that stuff, you do one exercise and you're shot. I did a heavy yoke carry today and just built up to like the heaviest one I could do for 100 feet. And I was fried. I was like, all right, that's it for the day, pretty much. So no, yeah, just pretty short, hard sessions.
Did you get the axle bar yet? Or the log?
The log, no, not yet.
Oh, okay. You got to tell us you got to tell us what kind of weight you got that up to. I'm really curious. I bet you can get a ton of weight.
I don't know. We'll see. Snap in half.
On that note, I do want to go around the table really quick and, what everyone has at least somewhat earmarked as like fitness goals for the year. Jason, I know you have some stuff, and maybe it's like nothing super specific. I mean, obviously it's going to look different for all 4 people on here, but what are you guys thinking about from a fitness perspective? Is it to compete anymore after this? Is it just kind of see how this goes? I'm curious. Jay, I'll send it to you first.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've been pretty outspoken about this. I want to compete in a jiu-jitsu tournament. It's really important for me. I just got to find the right one. It's hard. Jiu-jitsu is hard to compete in because of the amount of different categories there are. So like you could sign up for a local tournament and have nobody show up in your bracket, and that's not fun. So you have to find one that's big enough to have a lot of people, but the ones that are really big are also highly competitive. So you have to be ready for it. It's like this weird balance where you want to be able to have like local tournaments to prepare you, but no one really shows up to those. So you just got to kind of like just dive right in. But I definitely want to compete at jiu-jitsu before I get my black belt. I think I'm a black belt's inevitable. I'm going to get one. I've committed. I committed that day one of jiu-jitsu. I told myself I'm getting a black belt. I will get it. Maybe it's in a year. Maybe it's in 6 months. Maybe it's 2 years. I don't know. And then, so I want to do that. I want to do a tactical games. And then I'd say like more practical, like a fitness goal as of lately is that I want to commit every single day to training at 6 a.m., 6:30 with a group of guys. I want to make that commitment. And I'm pretty much good on that, but there's days where I don't. And I think that those are the days that aren't as successful. So I want to make sure that I make that commitment every day. I mean, I train every day. But maybe Sundays I could do something a little bit different. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Who's going?
I go. No, the other way. I'm trying. I'm going to see. So the strongman competition is coming up in February, so in about a month. And I hope that I catch the bug a little bit, and I hope that I want to keep doing it. It's just been fun to explore different movements that I've not really exposed myself to before and still find room for progress within those. So I really, I mean, but I've kind of made the decision mentally that like, I just want to spend this year getting as strong as possible and as jacked as possible.
Fuck yeah.
And do as little cardio as possible.
Yes.
Like I finally have realized, like I hate doing cardio. I don't like it. I'm not
even
good
the
at
stepper, dude. Even the stair machine, you don't like?
I don't like any of it. I never have. And like I've done it because it just felt like it was something I had to do. But I'm like, why am I gonna? I've made the decision mentally. I mean, I'll do like once a week. I'll get my heart rate up and sustain it for a period of time, whatever that's going to look like. I'll jump in class. I'll go for a run. Like I want to maintain a base level of conditioning, but I'm going to do as little as possible when it comes to conditioning, just to like make sure that I don't keel over. So but aside from that, because I'm just curious to see how I feel, how my body responds, how I recover, how strong I can get without having to worry about doing additional conditioning on top of all that. Because I haven't done something like that for as long as I can remember, since I started doing CrossFit, 16, 17 years ago. So I'm curious to see how I respond to that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That fires me up.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how bad your cardio gets. I don't think it's going to get that bad.
No,
because Gabe's a good example. Like, I thought Gabe's been doing all his bodybuilding stuff, and then he'll show up and he still has a pretty damn good engine. And it's surprising how well that stuff maintained. This is before, Gabe, you got in like running and stuff. I'm saying like a year ago or whatever, you're just doing bodybuilding and he would still show up and like smash stuff. I'm like, dude, what is going on here? So I imagine you're going to be in the same boat.
Yeah. And and very specifically, I think as it relates to like maintaining the ability to just run, I want to be able to just like go out and run a 5K whenever I want, go out for a few miles and not feel completely broken down by it and slog through it. So that I don't care to like maintain capacity in rowing and burpees and I've done
burpee test. What?
No. Wait a second.
No,
for the record,
it's too far, bro.
MDV, I had at least 3 people. Okay. This is just email me, just specific email. Hey, dude, MDV, he's tripping, bro. 4-minute burpee test. I know exactly what you're talking about. Call time made a difference. I was like, I felt validated. But there's probably another 1,000 people who are like, dude, that's stupid.
Oh no, I was just busting your balls mostly.
I
know what you were saying.
So yeah, that's where my head's at.
All right,
and strong and jacked.
Strong.
And MDV, jacked. What do you got, man? What's on the docket here?
They reframed a lot, man. Like I said, I had laid out a lot of 2025 goals the day that I ruptured my Achilles, and it's allowed me to focus really intently on the things that I can control right now, which is really pretty cool. So I'm enjoying that challenge because it's not always comfortable for me to focus on the things outside of like, physical prowess or like training is easy for me. Like I don't have a problem waking up or going to train or like going to the gym or, getting on the bike or doing it, whatever. Like I just do it. And I can't just do it right now. I have to be very intentional about what I'm doing. So, number one thing for me is to put myself in the best position to heal the Achilles, to keep doing the things that I know I can do on a daily basis that will influence that journey in a positive way, to make sure that the decisions that I make around mindset and nutrition, and some of the other things in my life, that those are for the most part, optimal decisions, the best decisions that I can make at the time for those things. And then, after I heal, what this has showed me is that my hip, because I had a hip injury about 2 years ago, and my hip is way more capable than I might have known, because I have to utilize just the right side of my body right now. So it's a tremendous amount of standing on one leg, squatting on down, leaning over. And it's given me a lot of confidence that I know that that's ready to rock and roll once my left ankle heals, to go out there and get back on the mats and do jujitsu again. Because I truly miss doing jujitsu. And I've started to see the people who I came up with in jujitsu graduate to belts beyond where I earned. And it's cool because they're such savages, man. You watch these people and they're like so talented. And I want to get back out there and do it at a level that I feel confident in and comfortable with. But I miss that that type of stimulus in my training for sure. So that will happen after the ankle heals up completely. So
very cool, man. Very cool. It's also going to be cool to like revisit this at the end of the year and see how everything's gone. So we'll replay this at the end of the year and see exactly how it all played out. For me, I'm just postponing the marathon goal, but that's still the big goal. And actually, I wanted to give a really quick shout out to Eddie Klein. So Eddie Klein listens to the podcast, shot me an email last week, like leading into me not being able to do Houston, which I was bummed about. And part of me like being bummed about was like, I've been trying to figure out like, all right, what's the next race am I going to do? Am I going to try and find something as soon as possible and hopefully use the training that I've built up to just kind of like, all right, let me get this done, or find something like later in the year and almost do like a new training block for it. And Eddie emailed me. He is a fan of the podcast, fan of Train Hard, owns a marathon in Michigan. It's like a small town marathon, but like the date is perfect. It's a last chance Boston Marathon qualifier, which is like my big goal is qualifying for the Boston Marathon, and invited me to go out there and run that race. So taking it as a sign, and I'm going to take him up on it. And that's going to be the race that I train for. So that'll be September. And the ultimate goal is to run a Boston qualifier time. So shout out to Eddie. I'm taking him up on it. The Holland Haven Marathon in Michigan, September 7th. So that'll be, and then the second thing, I saw Rogue put out a really cool challenge, and I want to train for that in the short term. This is going to be like year long. I don't know if you saw it, Den, but it's I forgot what they call it, like run and pump maybe. And it was a 5K run straight into max bench press body weight, max reps bench press at body weight. You take 10 seconds off your 5K time for every rep. And man, there's nothing that lines up quite into my wheelhouse as a 5K run and then max reps on the bench press. So I think that'd be a fun thing to just train for short term, build some speed, and then get into like another marathon training block leading up for September, because someone has to do cardio on this podcast. And if Den's not doing it, I'll do it.
I'm getting back on the fucking bike as soon as I can, by the way. I am dying to get back on the bike.
You can get a clip-in pedal, right?
So
but the push-up one is tough.
The pushing, so it's got to be heel driven almost exclusively. I can't do, for the first few weeks when I'm able to ride a bike again, it will be all through the heel. And then I'll gradually work my foot back on the pedal to like more of a 4-foot type of.
But if it's a C2 bike, could you use just the good leg, have the other leg braced on something and just pump with that leg with a clip-in pedal?
It's I don't know. I don't know. I'm only a few weeks. I think I'm only a few weeks away from being able to move very intentionally on the bike. So I'll put that one on the horizon.
When we had an athlete a while ago at the gym, Amelia Boone, and she used a ski erg exclusively with her Achilles tear. And so Amelia, you know her, Gabe, the long distance runner. But hey, what time do you think you have to do at the marathon to qualify for Boston, Gabe?
So technically my Boston qualifier time is a 3 hours flat, because this will be for next year's race. So I'm technically in the first masters age group, 35, 39. It's pretty funny to think about. But getting a qualifying time only means that you can register, because there's an allotment of spots per category. So you need a buffer in there, and the buffer varies from year to year and age group to age group. If I run like a 2:55, it should be like pretty safe. But like my goal is just to run the qualifying time. Like if I can actually go and run because I made it, great. I'm obviously going to try and have a buffer for it, but the qualifying time is 3 hours. I think I need to be like under 2:55. I think if I'm like a low 2:50, it's like pretty safe that I'm in. And I think that all of that is doable. I just got to get running again, man. So right now it's tough to like really be like, oh, this is what I can do, because right now I'm just biking and rowing. So it's a little frustrating.
So do we need to talk about the challenge? And then, cause I dropped the ball. I did the max set of pull-ups. I did not do it. I did that test like many weeks ago, and I don't know what it was. It's because it was a part of a force test, and I did all those ahead of time. Right.
So I didn't know your score?
No, I don't remember, but
I on video. Isn't it on the YouTube video?
Oh, okay. But that was a hand release one. So yeah, I have YouTube video proving that one. So it's a little different, but
a little different.
So
that was also just one max set too, right? Isn't that what you guys did?
Yeah, one max set, strict pull-ups.
Right.
And then it was just like a max set. I think I got, 19 or something like that. Tried like no body language or a little bit. And then it was max hand release push-ups unbroken.
No body English on there? Like no little kip, no little shoulder in there?
No, very, 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 no.
Shoulder?
No, almost like I was up against the wall, bro.
7 strict, 12 kipping.
I see what you did there.
Nice.
A little bit of body language. So Gabe, how do you want to handle that one? And then we got to address this next thing. I don't know about 100-pound for distance. That's going to take a long time, but
it's not going to take
as long as you think.
I don't think it's going to take very long at all, dude.
So I was doing holds the other day and what is the standard? So I had a 100-pound sandbag, and dude, if you carry it in the front, like on your chest, and it sucks. Yeah. Or is it cool to like kind of like baby carry that, right? Kind of give it a little lean and you put it on the hip.
No,
you're still holding it.
Yeah, but but if we're gonna like have a competition that is a test, it has to be a standard. You have to bear hug it.
You can't lap it at all. Like I think lapping it would be outside of the rules. At least if I were to test how long can you hold a 100-pound sandbag, I would say you could interlace or lock your arms around the sandbag however you want. It's got to be around like your belly or your waist. And you can't put any sort of bend into your knee or to your hip to lap some of the weight.
But that's why the walk is a much better test, because
you could still kind of skirt around that too. Like you could readjust, like lap it a little bit. But
so Dennis, so just to clarify, when I was doing this the other day, a buddy and I were kind of like talking, we're trying to riff. I was holding in the front. It really sucked. So I pivoted it to the right. I didn't bend. I didn't put it on my legs, nothing. I just pivoted off my stomach so I could breathe a little bit. Is that cheating?
Yes.
I'd have to see it. It depends. It's a gray area.
No,
you're probably getting a little support from the hip now.
100%. I know exactly.
If you're leaning it on your hip, you're out.
Yeah,
I know exactly what he was doing because he did it when we did a workout together, and it doesn't count.
No, Gabe. Yes, you were just mad you didn't come up with it, but it was a very effective way to hold a sandbag.
All right, how about this instead? What's the heaviest bag you have, Jay? What's the weights that you go up to?
God, now he's gonna make us do squats.
No, I have. I mean, I think at the gym we got some heavy ones. I mean, at least minimum 150. I mess around with the 100 a lot.
And Gabe, you have the 100. You have
the 150. I have the 100 and 150 like round ones, and then I have the Go Ruck Tombstone 165. But that one's a unique one.
How about a 150 max sandbag squat, max reps before you drop it?
Perfect.
Yeah, you can stop. You can whatever. You can sit in the bottom. No rules.
Wait, max. Hang on, I'm writing this down. Max
like that. No rules.
Sandbag.
Just like max sandbag squats. You got to bear hug a 150 bag, sit down, stand up as many times as you can until you drop it.
At 150?
I can tell you my score right now.
All right. So that's a challenge for next week, but let's go around. And so the challenge for this week, even though some people didn't keep their scores or follow the rules, it was supposed to be the pull-up, and the push-up challenge was kind of what we settled on, but we'll just do pull-ups because it sounds like that's what some people did, correct? So I'll go first because the point of the force test, how it was written, and I like this, is you have to open up with a max set. So it's almost 2 scores. It's what did you get for the max set, and then what did you get in the 2 minutes? So I got 20 and 41. I have video. Think they were legit.
2 minutes?
Yeah. Once I got off the 20, I was toast.
No. He got 20 pull-ups.
41.
Oh, you got 41 total pull-ups?
Yes.
In 2 minutes?
Yes.
No.
I did the max set at 20 and I was toast.
No.
Nothing else.
No, that seems like a lot.
You were like butterfly kipping that or something, dude. There's no way.
Was it 20 and 31? Maybe it's 31. Hold on.
That's way more reasonable. To go from
it was 20 and 31.
Yeah.
20 and 31. 20 and 31. 20 and 31.
I'm like, come on, bro. Dude, I'm trying to get 10 a minute on the minute and I'm struggling.
That would be really tough. That would be really tough to do 41 strict pull-ups in 2 minutes.
Especially after a max set.
After
20
a
and
max set,
31.
sure.
20 and I thought you guys were giving me shit because I was bad. Because it felt terrible. That's what I remember. But it was 20 and 31. It felt like
After a max set
more than
of
doubles.
strict pull-ups, you're down to 2 or 3 reps at a time. Probably.
I was doing singles.
For sure.
Singles.
What'd you get, Dennis?
I got 21 to open
God damn it.
and 27 total. Like a 6. It took me a minute to do 21, and I got 6 in the last minute.
No way.
Yeah. But the caveat, throat to bar. All throat to bar.
We got to
I
see the
want to see
video.
a video
That's
of what
impressive.
that looks like, because you talked about that, and I didn't really.
Throat to bar.
Wait. Yeah, no, keep it. No, you.
Throat to bar.
That's pretty
Ooh,
impressive.
Throat to
that's
got
pretty impressive.
That's
That
some
is-
chin. They got some chin over the bar there. Yeah, there
Throat
we
to
go.
bar. Throat to bar.
I mean, that's like
every rep. I'll show you the video. Throat to bar.
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, Jason's not
I don't
doing
know if
any.
I've ever heard anybody call it throat to bar. By the way,
Throat to bar.
been
I
doing
feel like
pull-ups
there's
for
gotta
a
be
long
better.
time.
I think there's got to be a better way of describing
Sounds
it.
a little sus.
Throat
Yeah.
to bar.
Chest-ish to bar, shoulder to bar.
Jay, what did you get?
I got, when I did it, I mean, I got 19. I didn't do it this way. Now that I think about it, I did just a max set. I got 19,
19.
but I didn't, but I don't know how much more I would have been able to get in 2 minutes. Probably 32.
Oh man! All right, so Jason takes third place here. MDV, what were you getting back in your heyday? You're a big pull-up guy.
No, right now we could do
max
it.
set of strict pull-ups. The biggest max set of strict pull-ups I ever did was 28 strict pull-ups. Strict pull-ups. I did it at a Wadapalooza event on one of those like marine
Oh,
pull-ups.
the marine pull-up bar. Yeah.
I did a max set of 24 here on the rig. I didn't do any reps after that to jump back up. But I've just been doing, mainly I've only been able to do strict pull-ups, strict chin-ups, and strict dips right now. I can't put weight on the ankle to do a push-up unless I keep it floated off the ground.
Mm. Hey, I will just say, Dennis, when you were at my house a while ago and we did chin-ups and it threw me off, right?
Yeah.
Since then, it's been programmed in flex quite a bit. Like yesterday, it was programmed in flex. And so I've been doing them a lot more. And dude, I've came to the conclusion that obviously I got to warm up quite a bit, but man, just back to the exposure thing, dude, it's way better than it was because I've been doing them because Gabe programs them pretty often.
Yeah.
And so just game changer, man. Just building up that exposure. So thanks for opening my eyes to that.
Of course. It's good. Did you do the push-ups, Gabe?
I did not.
Oh, I thought we were doing everything. What happened?
I did not.
This weekly challenge is falling apart.
We got the 150 sandbag is
Next
very
week is going to be
exciting.
good. Next week
This
is
is
gonna be
very
good.
exciting.
All right.
So just to kind of before we close out, you have a 150-pound med ball sandbag. It cannot be a tombstone. It has to be a med ball sandbag. Is that right?
Whatever you got. What do you got? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like a tombstone. You got an extra little grip in there. I don't.
Doesn't make a difference.
It might make a difference.
I think the tombstone would make a difference in terms of how it rests on your arms because of the shape. 100%, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking minimal amounts of reps. I don't think you're going to get like 30 more if you have a tombstone versus the med ball. Maybe
I mean, because I have a Rogue sandbag, the strongman sandbag, which is kind of like the med ball. It's pretty round and thick in terms of getting your arms around it. And then I have the Strong Fit sandbags, which is longer and narrower, and that is definitely easier to hold on to. So if you guys are using like rounder ones, I'll use the Rogue one.
But the tombstone isn't. It's not that narrow. That's the thing. That's why it's not different. I've used both. It's not different.
Yeah.
The tombstone just has a
tombstone's
place where
wide,
your arms,
right?
where your arms can like kind of go up against the. It doesn't matter. It's not like we have money on these things, but eventually, if we were going to start throwing a couple of bucks here and there, we need to make sure the standards are very, very specific.
Yeah. All right.
We gotta tell Liz we gotta get a leaderboard going. So far we have 2.
So we're going to
Like
keep
1.5.
it going.
We have like 1.5.
No, we'll just count the pull-ups. We have 2.
All right. I took the loss on that. Gentlemen, greatly appreciate you. For everybody who's been listening, we love having you guys check out the podcast, whether it's, Gabe and I, it's the home team here, it's guests. If this is your first time listening to the show, make sure you subscribe to it. If you've been listening for a long time, I know we have quite a few listeners that have been, listening for a long time. Shoot us a message, right? Send us back a message. Let us know what's going on. Let us know how we can support you better. We're here to shine light on training. We're here to shine light on mindset, and anything we could do to help level people up, we're all about it. Keep training hard. Keep getting after it. Appreciate you guys and have a great day.